So for more than a year, the idea of a DJI ban in the United States has been circulating online. At times it sounded dramatic, at times it felt exaggerated, and most of the time it was buried under rumors, screenshots, and half explanations. But now that DJI has officially been placed on the FCC's covered list, the conversation has changed, not because the situation suddenly became worse overnight, but because it finally became official. And once something becomes official, misinformation spreads faster than facts. So before a panic sets in, it's important to step back and clearly explain why this happened, what the FCC decision actually does, and just as importantly, what it does not do. The first thing to understand is that this decision didn't come out of nowhere. DJI has been under scrutiny from the US government for several years. The concerns have never been about drones falling from the sky or being unsafe to fly. The concerns are political and strategic. They revolve around data security, supply chain independence, and control over communications technology. DJI drones use radio transmitters, positioning systems, encrypted data links, and camera systems that fall under US communications regulations. From the government's perspective, any foreign-made device that communicates wirelessly can be viewed as a potential risk, especially when that company dominates the market the way DJI does. Whether those concerns are justified or not is a separate debate, but that's the lens through which this decision was made. The FCC covered list exists to prevent future authorization of communications equipment from companies deemed to pose a national security concern. Being added to that list does not mean a product is illegal. It does not mean it must be removed. It means that new equipment requiring FCC approval may not receive authorization going forward. That distinction is critical. This ruling is forward-facing. It is not retroactive. Every DJI drone that is already FCC approved remains approved. That includes drones that are currently on store shelves. It includes drones you already own. It includes drones you may buy tomorrow. There is no clause in this decision that grounds existing aircraft, disables firmware, blocks GPS, or prevents registration. Your drone will not stop working. Your drone will not be disabled. Your drone is still legal to fly. You can still register DJI drones with the FAA. You can still receive official registration numbers. You can still fly in controlled airspace with LAA ANC approval. Nothing in day-to-day flight operations has changed. Where this does matter is with future DJI products. If DJI were to release a brand new drone that requires fresh FCC authorization for its radio system, that approval could be delayed, denied, or complicated under the covered list framework. That's where uncertainty enters the picture. Not for what exists today, but for what comes next. And this is where things get interesting. A lot of people assume this means DJI is banned in the US. That's not accurate. What it really means is that DJI may have a harder time introducing new models into the US market under the same process they've used before. That could result in delayed launches, staggered availability, or US releases happening later than global releases. I guess it does not automatically mean no new DJI drones will ever be sold in the US again. In fact, there are multiple paths DJI could take. They could reuse previously approved radio modules, they could adjust hardware configurations, they could release global models that enter the US market through alternative distribution channels. None of those options are guaranteed, but none of them are impossible either. Another important point that's being misunderstood is which products are actually affected. The FCC covered list does not target specific drone models by name. It targets authorization of communications equipment. So this does not suddenly outlaw a Mini 5 Pro, an Air 3S, a Mavic 4 Pro, or any other existing drone. If a model has already been approved, it remains legal to sell and use. Retailers are not required to pull inventory. Online stores can continue selling approved models, local drone shops can operate normally, secondhand markets are unaffected. If you walk into a store and buy a DJI drone today, you are not buying something illegal or unsupported. Now here's where fear has started doing real damage. Some DJI owners have already started panic selling their drones, worried that prices will crash or support will disappear. Historically, that's almost never how these situations play out. In many tech markets, uncertainty actually raises the value of existing hardware. especially when alternatives are limited. If future DJI models become harder to obtain, demand for existing models doesn't vanish, it concentrates, and buyers who understand the situation often benefit, while sellers acting out of fear take unnecessary losses. There's also been confusion between this FCC ruling and customs issues. DJI shipments have faced delays at US borders for months, sometimes being held or flagged for additional review. Those issues are related to trade enforcement and inspection policies not directly caused by the FCC Covered List decision. They are separate problems that often get lumped together in online discussions. So, where does this leave DJI in the US? The honest answer is that DJI's future in the US becomes more complicated but not non-existent. The company has already diversified heavily outside the US market. Europe, Asia, and emerging markets are enormous for DJI, and the US is no longer the single pillar holding the company up. For US users, the most important takeaway is this: the drones you own today will continue to work, continue to be supported, and continue to fly legally for years. DJI has no incentive to abandon millions of active users, and there is no regulatory requirement forcing them to do so. The real question isn't whether DJI drones will stop working. The real question is how DJI adapts, and DJI has a long history of adapting quietly. This ban wasn't unexpected. It's the result of long-term geopolitical pressure, not a sudden safety discovery. And while it may affect how and when new DJI products reach the US, it doesn't erase DJI's technical lead overnight. Right now, there is still no alternative ecosystem that matches DJI in flight stability, imaging quality, safety systems, and software maturity across all price categories. That's why DJI remains dominant even under scrutiny. So if you're a current DJI user, the best move right now is simple. Keep flying. If you're considering buying a DJI drone, make your decision based on what exists today, not fear-based speculation about the future. And if there's one thing worth remembering, it's this. The loudest headlines are rarely the most accurate ones. This situation will continue to evolve. Policies will shift, workarounds will appear, and clarity will improve over time. Until then, staying informed matters more than reacting emotionally. This is it for today. Stay connected, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.